DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to occur. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, techniques, all under one unifying philosophy that is known as, oh yeah, we got a bunch of books as well, all known as work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to develop and maintain, we got to maintain it as well, thick skin. When I say thick skin, you might know what I mean, but I'll explain it in a moment. And before I get into explaining the topic, let me tell everybody that I have a text message line from where I send a daily motivation text every day. If you would like to receive that text, all you have to do is send a quick hello text message to this number, 305-384-6894. And when you text me there, we confirm that you are who you say you are. Then every day you'll get my daily motivation text straight to your phone, and you can engage with me there. You can respond to those texts, and you can text with me. I'll text you as well. Other things aside from daily motivation, right there at that number is down below in the description as well. So this topic, developing thick skin, what exactly does this mean? I'll give you a definition of thick skin. It means, quote, an ability to keep from getting upset or offended by the things other people say and do, close quote. I think this is a very important ability, very important skill that I think all of us need these days. We needed it in the previous days, and we're going to need it in future days. And really, if you listen to this show, if you've been following the Work on Your Game philosophy, if you've read many of my books, Work on Your Game, The Mirror of Motivation, Bulletproof Mindset, you've taken any of my courses, followed any of my material, then, I mean, we're kind of talking about this all the time. I'm always talking about having thick skin, even if I don't say it in so many words, is understanding that not everybody's the same. Not everybody's going to go along with whatever you have going. People are going to challenge you. People are going to disagree with you. People may even dislike you for whatever you represent or who you are, or something that you said, or something you've agreed with or disagreed with. How do you have the thick skin to deal with that and just take it all in stride without allowing it to slow you down? And if you do decide to pay attention to it, let's put it that way, how can you use it in a way that you're actually leveraging it instead of it leveraging you? That's what we're going to discuss here today. So let's get to it. Point number one, topic once again, is how to develop thick skin. Number one, take most of other people's actions and words the same way that most other people take your actions and words, with a grain of salt. Just this idea alone, if you remember only one thing from this episode, you can take this right here. And if you can internalize and apply this, I mean, it sounds like a simple enough concept, and it's probably not the first time you've heard something to this effect. If you can internalize and apply this, this will basically give you everything you need from today's episode. Take whatever other people do with a grain of salt. I'll give you an example. When I go through Twitter, for example, I'll scroll through Twitter, and any of you who follows me on Twitter, my Twitter name is Dre All Day. I like going through it I use it kind of as my what's going on source. I used to call it a news source, but Twitter's not really a news source, because if I didn't use Twitter at all, I would still know the most important things going on in the world. So it's not really a news source, but I use it as quote unquote news, where I can find out about little detailed things that are happening in smaller corners of the world or bigger corners of the world that someone has found, for whatever reason, it necessary to share it with everybody else. And some people's whole business is this, and some people just talk about stuff. Like, I'll talk about stuff on there. What I do a lot, though, is I see what other people have said, and I'll offer my commentary, my social commentary on certain topics, whether it be sports, business related, it could be government, politically related, it could be just some regular life thing, it could be something about, somebody had posted something today, not when you're listening to this, but something about school and education, and I got involved in that conversation. Well, it wasn't really a conversation. They posted something, and I offered a response out there to what they said. As the last time I checked, they didn't say anything back. But the whole thing is, when I scroll through the Twitter timeline, I scroll through like thousands or hundreds, let's say, of tweets all the time whenever I'm scrolling through the Twitter timeline. Most of the stuff that I see on there, I don't say anything to. I see it and I just scroll right past it. I can't even remember what it said, most of it. It's just the random access memory I'm using to see it. Now I'm moving on. By the time I get to the next tweet, I forgot what the previous one even said. Even the ones that I respond to, Most of the time, I don't even remember what I responded to or what I said or who I was talking to or who is this person. It doesn't even matter because it's all disposable. If you really look at what you're looking through on your feeds on social media, on all these feed platforms, even the YouTubes, Facebooks, Instagrams, TikToks, Twitters, is that you forget most of the stuff that you see on there every single day. Even the stuff that you engage with, the stuff that you look at, most of it you don't remember. Most of the content that I put out here over the years, whether on this show, whether it's some videos on YouTube, posts on social media, tweets, and things that I've written, most of it you're not going to retain. Now, hopefully there are a few things, hopefully more than a few things of mine that you retain because they were very impactful for you. But in the aggregate, most of the stuff that I've said, even the stuff that you've taken in, you ain't gonna remember it. You're not gonna remember it. It goes in one ear and eventually it goes out the other ear. Maybe not immediately, hopefully not immediately, but eventually it goes out the other ear. Most of the things that you take in from other people, you take with a grain of salt. You don't retain them at all, not even by the end of that day, let alone a year or a day or a week later in life. And this is how most of the stuff that you say and do is taken by most other people. Just with a grain of salt, just goes in one ear and out the other. In other words, it's not that significant. What other people are saying and doing to and about you is usually not that significant. Most people's actions and words have nothing to do with you, even when they're directed at you. They are usually about that person, and you might be involved in an indirect way because they're just using you as a way to express whatever they want to express, and you just happen to be the canvas on which they're painting that picture. The bigger and more visible your work is, though, I will offer, the more attention you will draw, which means the handful of negative people out there who can't help themselves may notice you as a result, or you will have more people using you as a platform on which to express their own ideas. They already had the idea, but you saying what you said or you being who you are just gives them space to say what they're going to say. Because you're so visible, you just become that platform for more and more people. So the bigger your name is, the more people will use you as a reason to share what they actually want to say. But it's not really about you. Again, you just made yourself a more available platform. It's kind of like a lot of people are hungry for fast food, but if there's not a Checkers around and people come to a McDonald's first, they'll just get the McDonald's simply because McDonald's made itself more discoverable and made itself more available. Somebody might be out there looking for a book that they want to buy and they don't know which one. They just want a book to read, something that sounds interesting. Well, if I make my book The Third Day more discoverable, then they might end up getting mine, not because they were seeking out a specific book on how to show up every day and be your best and how to separate the pros from the amateurs, just because I made myself discoverable when they happen to be looking for a book. So sometimes in life, people may be sharing things towards, about, and directed at, or seemingly directed at you, but it's not really about you. Again, you just happen to be available at the time that they had something to share. If you can just put yourself in that frame of mind and learn to take what other people are saying with a grain of salt, you will not take it so seriously. You won't take it to heart at all. And you will scroll through it just like you scroll through everything on your feed every single day. 99% of it, you only remember that you scrolled through it because it's not that significant to you. The bigger and more visible you are, again, people just see you and they may notice you, but it's not really about you. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to develop and maintain thick skin. Number 2, stop taking everything personal and remember that you are not that significant to other people. It was just stepped on what I talked about here in point number 1. And this is also something that if you look at it from your own personal perspective, other people are not that significant to you either. Just because you talked to somebody, just because you responded to what somebody said, just because you got angry at somebody, just because you went back and forth and debated with a person or conversed with them or looked at them, doesn't mean they're that significant to you. I mean, how significant is another person to you really? If you really think about it, how many people in your life are really that significant to you? Did the things that they say and do really matter that much to you? It's probably fewer people than you can count on one hand. You could probably count all the people who are really that significant. The things that they're doing and saying really matter that much. You could probably count them on one hand, as long as you have all 5 fingers. And you might not even need all 5. The only world that revolves around you is your internal world. And the only world that revolves around everybody else out there is their internal world. Now, again, we may step outside of thinking about ourselves for long enough to engage with another person and respond to them and go back and forth and say something, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, whatever. But for the most part, it's still all about us. Even when we're talking about another person, we're talking about ourselves because those words are coming from us. So we had to have those inside of us in order to project it out to them, and vice versa. They got to have something inside of themselves to project it out to you. There's a big thunderstorm about to come through here in Miami as I'm recording. So I don't know if y'all can hear that thunder, but I can see it. Thunder and lightning out the window. But we're going to keep going. The show goes on. Anyway, what you are doing and saying and thinking and feeling and representing is not as significant to anyone else, nearly as significant as it is to you. It is 99% significant to you. It is like 1% to everybody else in the world, even when they're talking to you. Everyone's world is about them. Your world is about you. My world is about me. And the person next person you speak to, their world is about them. Any of you who's a salesperson, you understand this on a very high level. At least those of you who are successful salespeople, you know that the sale is not really about you. Even if the thing that you're selling is about you, it's really about them and what the thing that you're selling is going to do for the prospect, the customer, the buyer. If you only talk about yourself, then you're probably not going to sell as much as you could. You might be able, if your product is that good and you have a locked in enough audience, you might be able to make sales even when you're not good at talking about the prospect in your sales process. But the better you get at talking about the prospect and what your offering is going to do for them and how it affects them, the better you will be at selling, simply because nobody gives a damn about you. I mean, I talked about that from so many angles here on the show. If you read my book, The Seller's Mindset, I explain that to you as well. If you go to workonyourgame.com/sell, SELL, you can get my book, The Seller's Mindset, where I explain that in even more detail. Everybody's world is about them. So when a person is talking nasty to you, they're not really trying to be nasty to you, even though it might feel like that. In the moment, I know it feels like that, trust me. But it's a reflection of what's going on internally with that person. And again, you're just the target at the moment. If you weren't around, they would take that same nastiness and they would project it onto somebody else. You just happen to be the person that made yourself available. So don't take it personal, because it ain't about you. It's about them. When people try to be hurtful or negative towards you in any way, all they're doing is projecting what's already happening on the inside for them, and they are just sending it outward to you. And again, if you were not around, let's say you had never been born, that same negative person would be sending that same negative energy out to somebody other than you because you weren't there. So do not make the mistake of narcissistically thinking that other people's actions are about you. They almost 99% of the time are not about you at all. Other people's actions are all about them. And you just made yourself an available target for them to throw those energies out there, because it's a lot harder for people to look internally and see what's going on in the inside with themselves than it is for them to look in the mirror, as I say, as it is to look out the window and see how can they project those same energies out onto other people. I talked about this in episode 1153, where I talked about leadership and the concept of the mirror and the window. Leaders look in the mirror and they take whatever energies they're feeling on the inside and figure out, all right, what is this saying about me? Whereas everyone else, and there are many more non-leaders than there are leaders, everyone else looks out the window. They take the energy that they're feeling on the inside, and instead of assessing what is it about themselves that energy is saying, they find a convenient target or a convenient canvas on which to project that energy. And this is where you get negative people. And there are a lot more negative people out there than positive people in my experience. And they just take that negative energy, and again, instead of looking at themselves in the mirror, they throw it out the window and go put it on other people. So when you see a lot of negative people out there in the world, don't think that means there's something wrong with you. No, it's just more negative people than positive people, and they move around pretty well, as I've heard. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to develop thick skin. Keep your focus on tangible, substantive things such as results. Now, this is a good thing to keep your focus on, right? And keep your focus off of fungible, nearly worthless things like words. As they say, words are a dime a dozen. Anybody could say anything. In the heat of an argument or a contentious situation, maybe you have experienced this, maybe you've been the one doing it, I'm sure you have seen it. Anybody will say anything in the heat of a battle in a conversation when they're trying to prove their point or they believe that they're right, or they're trying to land a victory over you or a slam dunk on you, whatever the situation happens to be. People will say anything. So words are a dime a dozen. As they say, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. People will just say whatever in certain situations. And if you're over the age of 12, you probably already noticed. So keep your focus on tangible things, substantive things, things like results, things with actual substance, like getting results for yourself and for the people who you want to help and the people that you want to serve in life. And keep your focus off of fungible, that means replaceable, easily, who cares if they went away, nearly worthless things like what people say. All right, I have seen estimates, I went and looked this up. How many words does a human being speak on a day-to-day basis? And the estimates range very wildly. I've seen estimates from 5,000 to 7,000 to 16,000 words a day. So let's just compromise somewhere in the middle there. And let's just say humans speak about 10,000 words every single day. 10,000 words a day. So much circulation of talk, so much circulation of people saying stuff. And now because we have these smartphones that allow us to connect to everybody else, or at least who we think is everybody else, and what they're saying, and then you can say something, and this is, you can just engage with people all day through these devices. If we count the words that we type along with the words that we actually speak out of our mouths, who knows, that number might be even twice as high. But there's so much circulation of just words and talk and everybody throwing their ideas and back and forth out there that the value is very small. The value of words gets very low. It's kind of like the money system. All right? The United States just goes out and prints, the government just goes out and prints money. The actual money is worth less and less every time they print more of it, simply because it's so much of it. The circulation makes the value go down. And it's not that the words or the dollars don't matter at all, but we all know that in the midst of any conversation, midst of a situation, especially when people are disagreeing, people will say anything. You've done it. Other people have done it to you. And you see people doing it even when you're a neutral third-party observer. So do not get so worked up about things that people say, because I've already given you a couple reasons why you shouldn't get worked up about that. And now I'm giving you another reason why. That thick skin, when I talk about having thick skin, I know the definition said not taking personal what people say or they do, but most of the time it's not really the things that people do. Most of the time in life, when people are getting distraught over situations, not because of what somebody did, it's usually because of what somebody said. It's some threat that somebody made, or some comment that somebody posted, or something that someone has just put out there that bothers you or upsets you or triggers you in some way. And then we get all worked up over that when, again, it had nothing to do with you really, if you would just take the focus off of yourself. Stop navel gazing, as they say, and just focus on things that matter, things of substance. And the things that matter in life for you probably number in the very few. And if you just focus on those, you have a lot more time, money, attention, energy, and focus to put on things that matter in your life. So any of you who feels like you don't have a lot of time in life, you feel like you just don't have enough time to do the things that you want to do, if you develop thicker skin and stop concerning yourself with other people's fungible, useless, dime a dozen words, then I guarantee you would all of a sudden find a whole lot more time in your life. So let's recap today's class, which is how to develop thick skin, defined as an ability to keep from getting upset or offended by the things other people say and do. Number one, take most other people's actions and words the same way that most people take yours, which is with a grain of salt. It is just not that significant. The bigger and more visible your work, the more attention you draw, which means the handful of negative people out there who can't help themselves might notice you as a result, but it's not really about you. Number two, stop taking everything personally and remember that you are not that significant to other people. The only world that revolves around you is your internal world, and it's the same for everybody else. If you were not there, whatever somebody said to you, even if it's negative, they would just say it to somebody else. You just happen to be there at the right time. Number three, keep your focus on the tangible, substantive things in life, such as producing results, and keep your mind off of fungible, nearly worthless things like talking. Words are a dime a dozen. People speak 5 to 7 to 16,000 words a day, depending on who you ask. Such circulation makes the value of words very, very low. It's not that words don't matter at all, but we know that people will say anything in certain situations in life. So don't get worked up about it, because sometimes people just have to do what they got to do when they're trying to save face. Don't take it personal. It's not about you. It's about them. Send me a text. You want to get my daily motivation text message. My number is 305-384-6894. Work on Your Game University is open. Coaching programs. We had a 3rd-day mastermind for one-on-one. We had 2 group coaching programs. We got all the courses available at the university level. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and work on your game. Dre all day.